We live in the highest unemployed area in Australia. Things are tough, and for people who are looking for that first job, they may need some assistance, but where? Michelle Gibbings is a career mentor. Good morning.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Good morning. How important is that first job for people of all ages?
It's really important because that's they're getting their foot in the door. They're getting experience, understanding what it means to work, to hold down a job, and all the bits that go with that. But also it's that confidence. Once you get your first job, the confidence that I know what it's like to be employed. And there's nothing that beats that first pay packet that you get. You probably, like me, remember when you had your first job and you went home with that first bit of money, like, wow, I've earned this. It's a really good feeling.
Now, when we think back to those times, it wasn't that easy to get a job back then. How much easier or harder is it now?
In some respects, it's harder, and it does depend on the region that you're living in. Years ago, and I still think this relates today, often people will get their first job because of someone they know, the introduction, the connection, the family friend or the colleague of their dad or their mum's. What's different now is some of those lower entry jobs are getting automated. That can make it harder for some people to find that first role. So there are still jobs out there, but it does mean sometimes people need to be a bit more creative, a bit more flexible in terms of what they're looking for.
Before we get on to the mentoring and helping people with some suggestions, how has the job market changed over the years, Michelle?
I think the job market has changed in terms of the types of roles that are available. Clearly, there's still roles in retail, but there's also a whole world that is out there that is now accessible because of the internet. So there is work that you can do from home when I was certainly growing up, just didn't even exist. And there's online job platforms that exist to facilitate that. So you've got things like Freelancer, other job sites where people can effectively sell their services for things that they can do at home via the computer.
Most importantly, for a young person making that first step, whether it's just a casual job or maybe their career job, how can we help them make the journey a little bit easier?
I think the important thing is, particularly as a parent or as a friend, is to provide them with support and guidance. So it can be challenging, particularly if you're getting knockbacks, that knocks your resilience around a bit. Being able to come home, have the conversation around what's worked, what hasn't worked, and also then encouraging them to get clear around what types of skills have they got, and also don't go for perfect. Often people think, well, here's all the list of criteria of things that I need for my first job, and if it doesn't meet that criteria, I don't want it. In reality, the most important thing is to get that first job because it gives you the experience that then makes it much easier to get the next job. Be open to different types of activities and different types of roles. And
I suppose it also starts to create that work ethic. Can I ask about some of these buzzwords that I'm hearing in the job market now? Internship, work experience and transferable skills.
So, internships and work experience, what often happens is, particularly if you're studying, and even when you're at school, there'll often be opportunities to do work experience, which is where, a bit like an internship, where you go and spend time in an organisation. Typically, you won't get paid for that. That can be invaluable because it gives you an understanding of what the industry is doing or what that particular company is doing, and you can get a sense of whether you like it or whether you don't like it. It's really important, though, to make sure that the internship isn't you replacing a full-time employee and that the young person isn't getting exploited. And it's very clear around what's employment and what's internship slash work experience. When we talk about transferable skills, what we're thinking about is when you go into a role, there's going to be a whole heap of skills that you might get. It might be skills around customer service, skills in terms of how to use different computer programs, how to do invoicing, how to manage different computer systems, and all of those skills that you learn in one job, depending on the role that you then move to, will transfer with you and you'll be able to continue to use those skills. So when a young person does their first role, when they start thinking about those transferable skills, it then helps them think about, okay, here's all these list of great skills I'm getting in this role. So when I move to my next role, what are those skills that I want to take with me and which of those skills do I need to develop?
Michelle, do these same principles apply to an area like the Wide Bay and Burnett, we're one of the highest unemployed areas in all of Australia. Is it different here than it is in the cities for kids going for that first job?
The similarity is around the types of things that they can do. Obviously, jobs can be different because in different regional areas you have different markets and different roles that are available. And there's no doubt that in regional areas, the unemployment levels for young people are higher than often you'll find in some of the capital cities. The application and the types of activities that young people can do to help themselves get ready for that first job and the principles remain the same.
Michelle, career mentor, thanks very much for joining us on ABC Wide Bay.
My pleasure, Rick. Thank you so much for having me.